The Forbidden Zone. Commander Sarah Mitchell stepped off the transport shuttle and felt her boots connect with the deck of Nexus Station. The massive structure floated in neutral space between 5 major star systems, and it was the beating heart of galactic civilization. Over 2 million beings from more than 600 species lived and worked here. The air smelled strange, a mixture of atmospheres blended to accommodate different life forms. Sarah took a deep breath and adjusted her uniform. This was humanity's moment. After 70 years of faster-than-light travel, after decades of cautious contact with alien neighbors, Earth had finally been invited to join the Galactic Assembly. Sarah was here to represent her species, to open diplomatic channels, and to prove that humans belonged among the stars. The welcome ceremony was scheduled for the following morning. Sarah had the rest of the day to explore the station and meet some of the delegates informally. She walked through the central plaza, watching the incredible diversity of life moving around her. Some aliens walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated through the air or crawled along the walls. Some were made of crystalline structures that sang as they moved. Others were clouds of luminous gas contained in force fields. Sarah smiled at everyone she passed. She introduced herself politely. But something felt wrong. Every time she mentioned she was human, every time she said she came from Earth, the reactions were identical. Conversations ended abruptly. Eyes looked away. Beings who had been friendly moments before suddenly remembered urgent appointments elsewhere. Even species that were known enemies of each other would find common ground when Sarah approached, standing together in their obvious discomfort before making excuses to leave. By evening, Sarah was certain something was deeply wrong. The entire galaxy seemed afraid of humans, but nobody would explain why. She returned to her quarters feeling confused and frustrated. Earth had done nothing to deserve this treatment. Humanity had been peaceful in all their contacts. They had followed every protocol and respected every boundary. What could possibly make 600 different species react with fear? The next morning, the welcome ceremony was brief and cold. The assembly speaker gave a short speech about diversity and cooperation, but his words felt hollow. When Sarah stood to thank them, half the delegates found reasons to leave the chamber. Those who remained watched her with expressions she could not read. Fear, yes, but also something else. Pity, perhaps, or concern. After the ceremony, Sarah began her investigation. She accessed the station's information networks, searching for any mention of Earth or humanity. Most files were standard astronomical data or recent contact reports. Nothing explained the fear. But then she found something strange. She pulled up a navigational map showing all the major trade routes and travel paths in the galaxy. Thousands of colored lines connected star systems, creating a complex web of commerce and communication. Except in one place. There was a gap, a perfect sphere of empty space approximately 500 light-years in diameter. No trade routes passed through it. No travel paths crossed it. It was as if that entire region of space simply did not exist for galactic civilization. And right in the center of that empty sphere was a small yellow star. Earth's sun. Sarah stared at the map for a long time. This was not an accident. The entire galaxy had deliberately avoided Earth's region of space. But why? She expanded the map and noticed something else. Ancient marker buoys surrounded the empty zone, flashing with warning signals that had been broadcasting for millions of years. Her translator struggled with the old language, but the meaning was clear. Forbidden. Do not approach. Something watches. She needed answers. Sarah spent the next 3 days tracking down anyone who might talk to her. Most refused. Some pretended not to understand her questions. A few became hostile, warning her to stop asking about things that were meant to remain hidden. Finally, she found someone willing to help. Dr. Kalen Thresh was a xenohistorian from a species called the Veltharians. They were tall, slender beings with blue-gray skin and large, thoughtful eyes. Dr. Thresh had spent 2 centuries studying the ancient civilizations of the galaxy, particularly the oldest and most mysterious species of all. When Sarah contacted him, he agreed to meet immediately. They met in a quiet garden on the outer ring of the station, where artificial sunlight fell on plants from dozens of different worlds. Dr. Thresh moved slowly, his long fingers gesturing as he spoke. His voice was soft but clear. "You want to know why we fear Earth," he said. It was not a question. "I want to know why the entire galaxy avoids my home," Sarah replied. "Humans have done nothing wrong. We are peaceful. We follow the rules. What have we done to deserve this treatment?" Dr. Thresh was silent for a moment. He looked at the flowers around them, at the artificial sky above, at anything except Sarah's face. "It is not what humans have done," he said finally. "It is what exists on your world. Or rather, what existed there long before humans evolved." Sarah felt cold despite the warm sunlight. "What are you talking about? Tell me, Commander Mitchell, what do you know about the architects?" Sarah searched her memory. The name was familiar, whispered in conversations she had overheard. "They are the oldest species in the galaxy," she said slowly. "The first civilization. They existed billions of years ago, before any of the current species evolved. They built structures that still stand today. They created technologies we still cannot understand. And then they disappeared." "Not disappeared," Dr. Thresh corrected gently. "They withdrew. They hid themselves away from the rest of the galaxy. And before they left, they placed warning beacons around your solar system." "Why? What were they warning about?" Dr. Thresh finally looked at her. His eyes were sad and ancient. "The architects explored the entire galaxy over the course of their long existence. They mapped every star, studied every planet, catalogued every form of life. And in all their billions of years of exploration, they only ever placed warning beacons around one location. Earth." Sarah's heart was beating fast. "What did they find there?" "They never said exactly. The warning messages are deliberately vague. But ancient texts from that time period mention something they called the Observer. An entity that existed on Earth long before your planet had oceans or atmosphere or life of any kind. The architects believed it came from somewhere outside normal space and time. They believed it chose Earth as an anchor point, a place to experience existence in a linear, physical way." "You are saying there is an alien on Earth? Hiding from us?" "Not hiding," Dr. Thresh said. "Watching. The Observer does not hide because it does not need to. It exists in a way that makes it impossible for most beings to detect. Think of it like this. You walk through your world seeing 3 dimensions. But the Observer exists in more dimensions than that. It watches everything that happens on Earth, but from an angle you cannot perceive." Sarah tried to process this information. It sounded like madness, like ancient superstition. But Dr. Thresh was a respected scientist, and the fear in the galaxy was real. "Why does this Observer watch Earth? What does it want?" "Nobody knows. The architects tried to communicate with it and failed. They left detailed records of their attempts. The Observer never responded to any message or signal. It simply watches. It has been watching Earth for over 4 billion years, since before life existed on your world. And you think humans are in danger? That this thing will hurt us?" Dr. Thresh shook his head. "If the Observer wanted to harm life on Earth, it would have done so long ago. No, Commander, we do not fear for humans. We fear because of humans. I do not understand. Every species that has evolved on Earth has lived under the Observer's gaze. Fish, insects, dinosaurs, mammals, all of them. But none of them ever knew it was there. They lived and died without awareness of the vast consciousness observing them. Then humans appeared. Humans with imagination and curiosity and the ability to wonder about things beyond their immediate perception." Dr. Thresh leaned forward. Several ships have approached Earth over the centuries, ignoring the architect's warnings. Most turned back quickly. Those that continued reported strange phenomena. Crew members experienced shared dreams. They saw impossible things in the space around Earth. Some ships reported that their instruments detected consciousness where none should exist, as if space itself was aware of them. 3 ships never returned at all. Sarah felt her skin prickle. What happened to them? We do not know. They vanished completely. No wreckage, no distress signals, nothing. And each time a ship disappeared near Earth, the rest of the galaxy became more convinced that the warning was correct. Stay away from Earth. Do not disturb what watches there. But humans live there. Billions of us. If this observer is so dangerous, why has it not hurt us? That is the question that terrifies us most, Dr. Thresh said quietly. The observer has not harmed humans. In fact, since humans developed civilization and began to truly think and create and dream, the observer seems to have become more active. The architect's ancient monitoring stations detected increased energy signatures around Earth about 10,000 years ago, right when human civilization began. Something changed. Something woke up or became more interested. He stood slowly. The galaxy fears that human consciousness somehow connects to the observer in ways other species never did. We fear that as humans spread across the stars, the observer might follow. We fear what might happen if an entity that old and powerful and incomprehensible begins to move through the galaxy. We do not understand the observer's nature or intentions. We only know it is there, and it is focused on your species. Sarah stood as well. Her mind was racing with questions and doubts and possibilities. The architects, she said. Where are they now? If they studied the observer, if they know more about this, I need to talk to them. Nobody has communicated with the architects in over 2 billion years. They withdrew to the deepest parts of space, to regions where no other species travels. They wanted nothing more to do with the rest of the galaxy. But you study them. You know their history. Do you know where they went? Dr. Thresh was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I have theories. I have spent 2 centuries piecing together clues from ancient texts and abandoned stations. I believe I know the general region where they might have gone. But Commander, it is far. It is dangerous. And even if we find them, there is no guarantee they will speak with us. I have to try, Sarah said. I need to understand what is happening. I need to know the truth about Earth and the observer and why the galaxy fears my people. If the architects are the only ones with answers, then I will find them. Dr. Thresh studied her face. Then he smiled, a small expression that made him look younger. I had hoped you would say that. I am too old for adventures, but perhaps not too old for one more journey. If you are willing to risk everything to find the truth, then I will show you the way. When can we leave? We should prepare carefully. The region we must travel to is called the Abyss Sector. It is a place where old stars go to die. Nothing lives there. Few ships ever venture into those dark spaces. We will need supplies, a fast ship, and a great deal of courage. Sarah nodded. I will get everything we need. How long will the journey take? 3 months if we are lucky. Longer if we encounter problems. The path is dangerous, Commander Mitchell. We will be traveling beyond all known space, into regions that have not been explored in millions of years. Are you certain you want to do this? Sarah looked up at the artificial sky of the station. Somewhere beyond it, beyond all the lights and ships and civilizations, was Earth. Her home. The place where 8 billion humans lived their lives, unaware that something ancient watched them. Unaware that the galaxy feared them. She thought about her family, her friends, everyone she loved. They deserved to know the truth. I am certain, she said. Whatever the observer is, whatever it wants, we need to understand it. Fear comes from ignorance. If we can learn the truth, maybe we can help the galaxy see that humans are not a threat. Dr. Thresh nodded. Then we leave in 3 days. I will prepare the star charts and gather what information I can. You should rest, Commander. The journey ahead will test us in ways we cannot yet imagine. They parted ways in the garden. Sarah walked back through the station, seeing it with new eyes. Every alien she passed lived in fear of something they did not understand. Something that had been watching Earth for billions of years. Something that might be connected to humanity in ways nobody could explain. She reached her quarters and sat down, staring at the wall. 3 days. In 3 days she would leave behind everything familiar and venture into the unknown. She would seek out the oldest species in the galaxy and demand answers they might not want to give. It was dangerous. It was possibly foolish. But it was necessary. Sarah Mitchell had come to the stars to represent humanity. Now she would discover the truth about what humanity really was, and what watched over them from the shadows of Earth. Whatever she found in the Abyss sector, whatever the architects revealed, she would face it. For Earth. For humanity. For the truth. The journey was about to begin. The truth beneath. The journey into the Abyss sector took exactly 87 days. Sarah Mitchell and Dr. Kalen Thresh traveled in a small research vessel called the Pathfinder, equipped with the best sensors and shields that could be acquired quietly. They could not tell anyone where they were going or why. The Galactic Assembly would never have approved such a mission. So they left in secret, slipping away from Nexus Station in the middle of a shift change when traffic control was too busy to pay close attention to one small ship. The first month of travel was through known space, following established routes until they reached the outer territories. Then they turned toward a region of the galaxy that appeared empty on all standard maps. The Abyss sector was not truly empty, Dr. Thresh explained, but it contained only the oldest and most dying stars. Red giants that had swelled to enormous size before beginning their final collapse. White dwarfs that glowed with the last remnants of ancient fusion. Black holes that had consumed everything around them and now sat in darkness, waiting for the universe itself to end. It was not a place where life flourished. It was not a place anyone visited unless they had a very good reason or a very strong desire to hide from the rest of existence. As they traveled deeper into the Abyss sector, Sarah noticed the darkness growing thicker. The bright stars of the galactic core faded behind them. Ahead was only dim red light and vast stretches of empty black. It felt like traveling backward through time, toward the end of everything. Dr. Thresh spent most of his time studying old star charts and comparing them to current sensor readings. He was looking for something specific, a pattern in the placement of ancient structures that might indicate where the architects had built their final sanctuary. The architects had been brilliant at hiding things. They had existed for so long that they understood how to make something disappear even from the most advanced sensors. On the 73rd day, they found the first clue. A small space station orbiting a dead planet around a dying star. The station was millions of years old, built in a style that matched known architect construction. It was abandoned and silent, but still functional. Its power systems ran on principles that current science could not explain. Sarah and Dr. Thresh boarded the station carefully, aware that they might be the first beings to walk these corridors in eons. Inside, they found data archives. Most were corrupted or encrypted beyond their ability to access. But one terminal still functioned, and it contained a navigation marker. A set of coordinates pointing deeper into the Abyss sector, toward a region where 3 neutron stars orbited each other in a complex gravitational dance. Dr. Thresh's eyes lit up when he saw the coordinates. That is it, he said quietly. That is where they went. They continued their journey. The darkness grew deeper. The few stars they passed were strange and unsettling. Some pulsed with radiation that made their instruments scream warnings. Others were surrounded by clouds of debris, the remains of planets that had been torn apart by gravitational forces. Sarah found herself feeling very small and very far from home. Earth was thousands of light years behind them now. If something went wrong out here, no one would ever find them. On the 87th day, they reached the neutron star system. 3 incredibly dense stellar remnants circled each other at tremendous speeds, warping space and time around them. The gravitational forces should have made it impossible to approach safely. But Dr. Thresh detected something else. A structure. Massive and ancient, built inside the gravitational well where it would be protected from detection and intrusion. The architects had hollowed out one of the neutron stars and built their sanctuary inside it. Sarah stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. How is that possible? The gravity, the radiation, everything should make that impossible. Not for the architects, Dr. Thresh said. They understood physics in ways we still cannot imagine. If they wanted to hide inside a neutron star, they could do it. The question is whether they will allow us to enter. As if in answer to his words, their communication system activated. A signal was coming from the structure, powerful and clear despite the interference from the neutron stars. The message was in a language so old that their translator needed several minutes to process it. When the translation appeared on Sarah's screen, it was simple and direct. You have come far, seekers. State your purpose. Sarah took a deep breath. She activated the communication system and spoke clearly. I am Commander Sarah Mitchell of Earth. This is Dr. Kalen Thresh of Velfaria. We have come seeking the truth about Earth and the Observer. We request an audience with the architects. There was a long silence. Sarah could feel her heart beating hard in her chest. Then the voice came again. You are human. You should not be here. Your species was meant to remain isolated until the proper time. The proper time for what? Sarah asked. The galaxy fears us because of something on our world. Something you know about. We have a right to understand what is happening to our people. Another pause. Then, very well. You have courage to come this far. We will speak with you. Follow the guidance signal. Do not deviate from the path or you will be destroyed by forces beyond your control. A new signal appeared on their navigation system, showing a precise course through the gravitational chaos. Dr. Thresh followed it exactly, his hands steady despite the dangerous environment. The Pathfinder moved carefully through warped space, threading between gravitational riptides that could have torn them apart in seconds. Finally, they reached an opening in the neutron star's surface. A passage that should not exist, leading into the impossible structure within. They entered slowly. Inside was a vast chamber, larger than should have been possible given the size of the neutron star. The architects had created a pocket of stable space within the stellar remnant, a bubble of normal physics surrounded by the crushing density of collapsed matter. The chamber was filled with light, soft and golden, coming from sources Sarah could not identify. And in the center of the chamber, something waited. Sarah had expected the architects to have physical bodies like other species. She had imagined them as ancient beings, perhaps fragile with age, but still recognizably alive. Instead, what she saw was consciousness itself made visible. A pattern of light and geometry that shifted and flowed like water, existing partially in their dimension and partially in places her mind could not comprehend. Looking at it made her eyes hurt and her thoughts feel strange, as if her brain was trying to process information it was not designed to handle. The pattern spoke, and its voice filled the chamber and their minds simultaneously. I am the Keeper. I am what remains of the architects. We were once many, billions of individuals across thousands of worlds. Now we are one, merged together into a single consciousness that exists beyond physical form. We withdrew from the galaxy 2 billion years ago because we had learned too much about the universe. We had seen things that made existence among younger species impossible. We chose to hide here and wait for the universe to end, observing but no longer participating. Sarah found her voice despite her awe and fear. Why did you place warning beacons around Earth? What is the Observer? The Keeper's pattern shifted, becoming more complex. Before we answer, human, you must understand something. The knowledge you seek will change everything about how your species sees itself and the universe. Once you know, you cannot unknow. Are you certain you want this burden? I am certain, Sarah said firmly. My people deserve the truth. The keeper was silent for a moment. Then the pattern expanded, filling the chamber with images and information. Sarah saw Earth as it had been 4.5 billion years ago, a ball of molten rock orbiting a young yellow star. She saw something else arrive. Not a ship or a physical object, but a presence. Something that existed outside the normal rules of space and time, reaching into the universe from somewhere beyond. The observer, the keeper said. We do not know where it came from. Our best theory is that it exists in a higher dimension, a level of reality that contains our universe the way a book contains a story. The observer is not part of our universe. It is something outside looking in. And 4.5 billion years ago, it chose Earth as an anchor point, a place where it could focus its attention and experience existence in a linear, physical way. The images showed Earth cooling, oceans forming, the first simple life appearing in those ancient seas. The observer did not create life on your world. Life arose naturally through chemistry and chance. But the observer watched every moment of that process. It observed every mutation, every evolutionary step, every species that appeared and disappeared over billions of years. It learned about time and change and growth, concepts that do not exist in its native dimension. Dr. Thresh spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. You said it chose Earth specifically. Why that world and no other? We do not know. Perhaps the location was significant. Perhaps the planet's composition made it easier to establish an anchor point. Perhaps it was entirely random. The observer has never communicated its reasons. It has never communicated at all, despite our many attempts over millions of years. The images continued, showing dinosaurs, mammals, early primates. Then humans appeared. Sarah saw her ancestors learning to make tools, discovering fire, creating art in caves. When humans evolved, the keeper said, something changed. Every previous species on Earth had lived and died without awareness of the observer. They could not perceive it or understand it. But humans developed imagination. They developed the ability to wonder about things beyond their immediate senses. They created stories and myths and dreams. And somehow, in ways we do not fully understand, human consciousness began to resonate with the observer's presence. Sarah felt cold. What does that mean? Are humans connected to this thing? Not controlled, the keeper clarified. You are completely autonomous. Your thoughts are your own. But there is a resonance, a harmony between human imagination and the observer's nature. When humans dream, the observer experiences those dreams in a way it cannot experience anything else. When humans create stories about distant stars and alien worlds, the observer sees those possibilities. When humans wonder about the nature of existence, the observer wonders with them. The pattern shifted again, showing Earth in modern times. Billions of humans, cities covering continents, ships traveling to other worlds. For 10,000 years, we watched this development with growing concern. The observer became more active as human civilization grew. Its attention focused more intensely on your species. We feared what might happen if humans continued to expand. We feared that the observer's presence might spread with them, changing the nature of reality wherever humans went. Is that possible? Sarah asked. Can the observer spread beyond Earth? We do not know. The observer has remained anchored to Earth for 4 billion years. But it has never had a reason to leave before. Humans are the first species it has truly connected with. If enough humans spread across enough worlds, all of them dreaming and creating and wondering, the observer's attention might follow. It might establish new anchor points. It might begin to experience the universe through billions of windows instead of just one world. Dr. Thresh leaned forward. Would that be dangerous? Would it harm other species? We do not believe the observer is hostile. In all our observations, it has never caused deliberate harm. But its presence fundamentally alters the nature of space and time around it. Physical laws become flexible. Consciousness becomes more aware of itself. Reality responds to thought in subtle ways. If the observer's presence spreads across the galaxy, existence itself might change in ways we cannot predict. Sarah felt the weight of this knowledge pressing down on her. She understood now why the galaxy feared Earth. Not because humans were dangerous, but because they carried something with them. An ancient presence that had watched Earth for billions of years and might follow humanity wherever they went. "What do you think we should do?" she asked quietly. The keeper's pattern became still. "That is not for us to decide anymore. We withdrew from the galaxy because we were tired. We had existed for too long and learned too much. We no longer have the right or the desire to guide younger species. But we will tell you what we believe. We believe the observer is not evil or dangerous. We believe it is simply curious, experiencing existence through the only species that has ever truly interested it. We believe that humanity's connection to the observer might be the most important thing that has ever happened in this universe." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Because the observer exists outside time. It has seen the beginning and the end of everything. It has watched universes be born and die. And yet it chose to focus its attention on one small world and one young species. There must be a reason. There must be something about humanity, something about your capacity for imagination and wonder and creation, that matters on a cosmic scale." The images faded, leaving only the keeper's flowing pattern. The galaxy fears change. The older species especially fear anything that might disrupt the stable existence they have built over millions of years. They want everything to remain as it has always been. But the universe does not work that way. Change is inevitable. Evolution continues. New things emerge that the old ones cannot control or predict. Sarah thought about this for a long moment. Then she spoke. "You said you no longer guide younger species. But you are speaking to me now. Why?" "Because you came here seeking truth instead of running from fear. Because you represent something important. Humanity has a choice to make. You can retreat back to Earth, accept the quarantine, and live isolated from the rest of the galaxy. Or you can embrace your connection to the observer and accept whatever changes that might bring. The galaxy needs to make a choice too. They can continue to fear what they do not understand, or they can trust that some changes are meant to happen." The keeper's pattern shifted one more time, becoming brighter. "We were wrong to place warning beacons around Earth. We acted from fear, trying to prevent something we did not understand. But after 2 billion years of contemplation, we have realized something. The observer chose Earth for a reason. Humans evolved under its gaze for a reason. This connection between mortal consciousness and cosmic awareness might be exactly what the universe needs. New perspectives. New ways of experiencing existence. New bridges between different levels of reality." Sarah felt something shift in her understanding. "You are saying humans are meant to be ambassadors. Between the observer and the rest of the galaxy. Perhaps. Or perhaps you are meant to be something else entirely. We do not know. But we know that isolation and fear are not the answer. We know that trying to prevent this connection from growing will only make things worse. The observer has waited 4 billion years. It will not be denied now." Dr. Thresh spoke again. "What will you tell the other species? Will you help them understand? We will do more than that. We will remove the warning beacons. We will send a message to the Galactic Assembly explaining what we have learned. We will tell them that humanity must be allowed to spread freely, and that the observer's presence should be embraced rather than feared. Whether they listen is their choice. But we will give them the truth as we understand it." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. Relief and gratitude and awe all mixed together. "Thank you. Thank you for trusting us with this knowledge. Thank you for having the courage to seek it. Now go, Commander Mitchell. Return to your people. Tell them what you have learned. Help them understand their unique place in the cosmos. And do not be afraid of what watches over them. The Observer has kept Earth safe for 4 billion years. It will not stop now. The audience was over. The Keeper's pattern began to fade, its light dimming. Sarah and Dr. Thresh returned to the Pathfinder and began the long journey back through the Abyss sector. Neither spoke much during the return trip. They were both processing everything they had learned, trying to understand what it meant for themselves and their species. When they finally reached Nexus Station 3 months later, everything had changed. The architects had kept their promise. They had sent their message to the Galactic Assembly. The warning beacons around Earth were being deactivated. And the galaxy was struggling to accept a new reality. Sarah stood before the assembly and told them her story. She spoke of the journey to find the architects, of the Keeper's revelations, of the Observer that had watched Earth since before life existed. Some delegates refused to believe. Others were terrified. But many, especially the younger species, were fascinated. They wanted to know more. They wanted to meet humans and understand this connection to something beyond normal existence. Over the following months, everything changed. The quarantine ended. Ships from hundreds of species began visiting Earth's solar system. Humans welcomed them cautiously but warmly. Scientists from across the galaxy came to study Earth, hoping to detect some sign of the Observer's presence. They found nothing concrete, but they found something else. They found that humans had an unusual ability to imagine and create and wonder. They found that human art and stories and dreams had a quality that other species could not quite explain. Something that made reality feel more flexible, more responsive to consciousness. Humanity spread across the stars faster than before. They built colonies and established trade routes and formed alliances. And wherever humans went, strange things began to happen. Not dangerous things, but unusual. Colonists reported dreams that seemed more vivid and meaningful. Scientists discovered that creative thinking helped solve problems in unexpected ways. Artists found that their work resonated with alien species in profound ways. The Observer was following humanity as the Keeper had predicted. Not physically, but through attention and awareness. It was experiencing the universe through billions of human minds, all of them exploring and creating and wondering. And slowly, the galaxy began to understand that this was not something to fear. It was something to celebrate. Sarah Mitchell watched all of this unfold with quiet satisfaction. She had gone seeking answers about why the galaxy feared Earth. She had found something far more important. She had discovered that humanity had a purpose beyond simple survival. They were bridges between mortal existence and cosmic consciousness. They were the universe's way of experiencing itself through imagination and wonder. And the Observer, that ancient presence that had watched Earth for 4 billion years, continued to watch. Not controlling or interfering, but simply experiencing existence through the species it had waited so long to find. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars. And they had brought something with them that would change the galaxy forever. Not through conquest or technology, but through the simple power of consciousness reaching beyond itself to touch something infinite. The oldest species in the galaxy had avoided Earth because they feared what lived there. Now they understood. What lived there was not a threat. It was a promise. A promise that existence was more than it seemed, and that consciousness could bridge the gap between the physical and the cosmic. Humanity had become the living proof that the universe was aware, and that awareness itself might be the most important force in all of creation. Sarah stood at an observation window on Nexus Station, looking out at the stars. Earth was far away, but she could feel it somehow. She could feel the Observer's presence, patient and eternal, watching through billions of human eyes as they reached out to embrace the infinite possibilities of existence. The journey had ended. But for humanity and the galaxy, something far greater was just beginning.